late last night, the Senate actually passed a whopping $2 trillion stimulus package in order to help both businesses and U.S. workers. But as usual, something that we've been arguing throughout this entire negotiation process, the final bill, which the Senate unanimously, meaning every single senator voted in favor of, still has a giant problem with prioritizing massive businesses, massive corporations above the best interests of American workers. So I want to do this deep dive and give you the details of what the Senate has approved. It still needs to be approved by the House, but it is expected to be approved by the House. So this is likely the final version of the law. So based on what we know, and this was reported by Zach Carter at the Huffington Post yesterday, but this still applies to the final passage. The new law would establish a 4.5 trillion with a T, corporate bailout fund overseen by Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin with few substantive constraints. Some outlets are reporting this as a $500 billion fund, but the $425 billion that's going toward these massive corporations will be leveraged 10 times over by the Federal Reserve, resulting in a multi-trillion-dollar program. Okay, so that still remains. These companies will still be bailed out. In addition to that, the bill permits bailed out companies to lay off up to 10% of their workforce over the next 6 months with no restrictions after that. So there will be some oversight when it comes to keeping people employed for the next 6 months. But after that, these corporations, which are now being bailed out by us, the U.S. taxpayers, can go ahead and fire as many people as they want. Keep in mind that Mnuchin would have the authority to waive any upside for the public in its new investments, and the bill's restrictions on stock buybacks at bailed out firms are too temporary to be significant. Bailed out companies can even pay dividends to their shareholders. These issues remain, okay? And it's a huge problem, especially when you consider the fact that the stimulus checks that are going to be sent out to Americans are means tested, meaning they're going to ensure that you're not making too much money to receive those checks. So at about $75,000, you will receive about $1,200. That'll be the one-time check you receive. And then it starts tapering off in amount until you get about $99,000 a year. At that point, you don't get any stimulus check. I bring that up because they means test us as U.S. workers, right? But keep in mind that the companies that are likely to be bailed out are airline companies. And JetBlue, Alaska Airlines Group, and Delta, those are three airline companies that paid $0, nothing, $0 in federal taxes in 2018 following Donald Trump's massive tax cuts for the rich. So they pay nothing into the federal government. We pay our taxes. And when push comes to shove, when things start to get ugly for these companies that, by the way, have been price gouging us as well, they get bailed out by us, the U.S. taxpayer.
So I need somebody to explain to me why there's these giant differences between small businesses and big business. Look, spoiler alert, it's because big businesses have lobbyists and they bought all of our corrupt politicians. Small businesses are screwed. So Do some big businesses potentially need help? Absolutely. So there's a good question as to whether those should be loans, grants, what should be the interest rate on those loans. We need airline industry once we come out of this mess. At the same time, I hear from libertarians and right-wingers all the time, hey, if your business can't survive, sad day, sad day. So who cares? Bootstraps, bootstraps. Certainly if you're an individual, they say that to you 1,000 times over. Oh, you couldn't pay for your house? Ha ha, the bank took it. Yeah, you should get some bootstraps and see how you deal with it. That's free market economics, baby. But when it comes to Boeing, all of a sudden, nobody's interested in free market economics. The audacity of the Boeing CEO and that he got away with it because he knows he already bought all of Congress. They start talking about equity stake if you're going to bail out these companies. He said, absolutely not. How dare you? Don't you know I'm your boss? And he said, we have many other options. Well, if that's true, I invite Boeing to go ahead and piss off and go and do whatever the hell they're going to do with their other options. Wait a minute. If you say I need it, small businesses need it, TYT needs it, tyt.com/go, okay? And we're going to use whatever resource we can get from the government, but it isn't going to be enough because we're a small business. But if Boeing says they don't need it, then what the hell are we giving money for. And why there are two different rules. I like the rule where it says small businesses must protect their employees. Now, that gives less so-called freedom and more restrictions on small business owners such as myself. Fine, good. I want to protect the employees. But why doesn't big business have to play by the same rules? They have more money. They have more power. They're getting literally 10, 15 times the amount of money small business is getting. So why don't they have to play by the rules? No, they can fire 10% of their employees right now. They already fired a lot of their employees already. No consequences for that. And then after 6 months, they can fire them all if they want, right? And at the same time, here you go, dividends to shareholders and all the other things. Can small businesses do any of that? No, because you weren't as corrupt as big business, and you didn't buy all of our stupid, corrupt politicians. So now, are you seeing that on TV? No, you're not. On TV, because they're owned by large corporations. They're all applauding. Bravo, bravo, way to give it away to us.
Yeah, a lot of the great analysis that I've seen on this Senate bill has been done on independent media outlets and print journalism, some print journalism. But I do want to note that the way they're defining small businesses is if you have 500 employees or less. And the reason why I bring that up is because the massive corporations that do not have to abide by this, strict employee rule, they employ more people in the country, right? Because by their very nature, they have more employees. As big businesses, big companies, they have more employees. So if you genuinely care about rewarding companies who keep their employees because you want people to stay employed, then having a different standard for small businesses makes no sense. And the standard, by the way, for small businesses is that the federal government will come in and provide loans in order to keep the companies afloat. However, those loans will only be forgiven if the small businesses maintain their workforce. With the corporations, it's a little different because these are bailouts. So they're loans by their very nature, but they don't have to abide by any strict rules when it comes to keeping their employees. Because you're right, Cenk. I mean, I think corruption does have a lot to do with it. And Boeing tells these lawmakers to jump, and they jump. It's amazing to me that he has the audacity to say that the U.S. government has no role in owning equity in Boeing when the U.S. government's coming in to save them right now. It's crazy.
Look, if you're doing emergency financing of any business under normal circumstances, meaning for whatever reason they need emergency financing, keep it real. If you know anything about business, that means you have all of the leverage. So in this case, the government has all the leverage. Now, if Boeing says, I don't need your money, so you have no leverage, fantastic, great. Then we won't give it to you. But for the government to say, oh, please, please take my taxpayer money. By the way, taxpayer money isn't free. Where does it come from? It comes from all of us. So I'm going to take from the middle class, and I'm going to pretty please give it to you under the conditions that you will impose upon us. That's not how it works. Boeing should get zero. If they don't want it, they should shut up and go away. So it is absolutely outrageous. Part of it is for the airlines, which are in the biggest trouble. Again, understand that I have tremendous sympathy, even for the large corporations that are going through incredibly tough times, as long as we're fair to everyone. But some of those folks are going to get grants. Some of the largest corporations in the world are going to get grants. That means free. Take it. It's yours. Is it going to be same rules for small business? Is it going to be same rules for the employees? Oh, hell no. No. The richest people, as usual, in this deeply corrupt country get the most.
And as a progressive, if you're curious to find data that supports what we're saying, a good way of looking at it is to just take a look at how much share prices went up for Boeing following the passage of the stimulus bill. Even when it was being negotiated yesterday, I mean, record share prices or increase in share prices in a short period of time. And it's because everyone knew, these investors knew that, don't worry about it. The Senate's going to look out for Boeing. Now, look, I mentioned that it was passed unanimously because I was pretty disappointed to see that every senator, including a senator that I have a lot of admiration for, Bernie Sanders, voted in favor of it. However, I do want to point out some of the good parts of the stimulus bill, because there are some incredibly important concessions that Bernie Sanders was able to get from Republicans. Okay. So first off, when it comes to these bailouts, there are big businesses that do not qualify. And this is a good thing. Okay. So the oil industry is getting nothing. And for some reason, the cruise industry also isn't getting anything. But I think it has to do with, just the whole issue that I brought up when it comes to bailouts overall, which is tax subsidies and things like that. I mean, it's amazing that we get means tested, and then the companies that haven't paid anything in federal taxes end up getting bailed out. Now, cruise companies apparently don't fall under that category, but I'm really happy to see that the oil industry isn't going to get any of this bailout money. Also, the administration can take equity stakes in airlines that received aid to help compensate taxpayers. It would also send $100 billion to hospitals. By the way, AOC on Twitter said it's actually $200 billion. There's a discrepancy there, but I want to look into that and give you guys the accurate number. But somewhere between $100 to $200 billion to hospitals on the front lines of the pandemic. Okay, so those are some good things. Weirdly, the Postal Service isn't getting any help. I don't know why. That makes absolutely no sense. The post office has been hurt by this economically because people aren't working, obviously, and they're not sending mail. So the post office is in a disastrous situation right now. I don't know why they're not included in the, the economic relief package.
Can I guess? Okay, I'm going to guess it's because they don't have any lobbyists. And they serve actual people, and they don't charge at least $20 for every package. So they don't have enough money to bribe U.S. politicians. So look, here at the Young Turks, we do nuance. So, and if you don't like that and you want a black and white world, that's all right. There's plenty of options for you guys. So when you do nuance, you recognize the good parts of the bill, and you recognize the necessity for some sort of stimulus bill, no question. And you recognize that the getting checks to folks making less money is a good thing. You recognize that increasing unemployment is a good thing. The incentive for companies to keep employees is a good thing. But you also recognize the downsides. And so, that's why independent media is so important. I don't mean in this case just the Young Turks. As Anna pointed out, Zach Carter at Huffington Post, David Dayen, who comes on the show from time to time, American Prospect, really, really good articles that actually explain to you what no one else is explaining. That's why you'll go on TV, and TV makes it sound like it's Shangri-La. And the reality is we got giant giveaways to multinational corporations, and is there equity in it? So again, no one's explained to me why cruise companies get nothing, and they're absolutely devastated by this, and airlines get loans and grants. So I could see the need for airlines to get both, depending on how you structure it. Do we get equity stakes? What kind of leverage did we use? What are the terms of it? But I could also see that for cruise lines. So, but why, if you're asking me to guess, I would guess that the airline companies have way better lobbyists. And by the way, their union for the flight attendants is excellent. So they might have used leverage with the Democrats to say, no, you'll give money to the airlines. And if the cruises aren't unionized and they don't have the unions pushing the Democrats to support them, sorry, all the cruise companies go bankrupt. But that's the problem with this. This isn't based on need. It's based on corruption.
Right. I agree with you on that. One other thing I wanted to bring up when it came to the cruise companies is an argument is, hey, they're basing their headquarters in places where they wouldn't have to pay anything in taxes to the U.S. government. And that could have factored into their decision. But tax dodging is a favorite American pastime for a lot of these corporations that are going to get the economic relief.
Well,
so,
Anna, I love that explanation. And if that's true, let's make it uniform.
Yeah.
Any company trying to dodge U.S. taxes. Look, I love my iPhone, but Apple, I don't know what they're doing in Ireland. And if you're an Irish company, well, okay, I guess sad day for you. And then it goes on. I don't know that Apple needs anything in this context, right? But whichever company is not based in America and is trying or has put a subsidiary in a foreign country in a way to avoid U.S. taxes, bye-bye. You shouldn't get anything.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.